All right. It is a new episode. See, I've already completely forgotten what episode it is. This is. When have I ever remembered? I remember sometimes. Okay. It's the 18th episode of the Runnin My Mouth podcast. I am your recently woken up from a nap host, Erin. I don't know if I've used that one before, but I have recently woken up from a nap. And allow me to run my mouth a little bit. So, I originally had a list of topics for this episode. It was a list consisting of only like 3 things. And one of those things I talked about at length on a YouTube video on my main channel. It's about the Paupers Cemetery in Hinds County in Mississippi, and a video by Vosh that I saw that just had a lot of inaccuracies that I wanted to point out because, those things are being spread around as fact, and that is not very helpful at all. And I'm not really going to talk about it anymore because I spent, an hour and a half talking about it yesterday. If you want to know more about that situation, you can just watch my video on my main channel. It's just Erin. It's as of, this episode coming out, it's the most recent video that's on my channel. I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of forget the title. It's a long title. I don't know why I made it so long, but it's on there if you want to watch it. It's about an hour and 9 minutes, which, aside from a very disjointed review of the book Luckiest Girl Alive, is probably the longest video on my channel, aside from like a one-off podcast episode thing that I did. But as for like a structured video on my channel, it's definitely the longest. And let me tell you, I spent all day working on it yesterday. Like, I looked up and it was like almost 5 o'clock, and I was like, oh man, that really took me all day. But yeah, it's out. If you want to see it, I'm not going to talk about it here because I talked about it so much already. So the other 2 things on my list, I guess I can replace the Pauper's grave, or the Pauper's cemetery, with when was this, Saturday? Yeah, okay, Saturday night. I went to see the Book of Clarence in theaters, featuring, oh my gosh, why am I blanking out his name? Lakeith Stanfield, the guy with the secret family. And it was fine. It was pretty fine. Even though I am of the agnostic persuasion, I really love a good riff on the Bible. I think it's fun, especially something like that, I don't really have a whole lot to say about the movie itself. I thought it was a fine movie. It gave me a giggle sometimes. It was really nice to see a movie in the theater again, even though, let's see, the last one that I saw was Napoleon, and that one was just just okay, that was the Ridley Scott one with Joaquin Phoenix. And that I remembered in my head as I was watching Napoleon, like, oh yeah, Ridley Scott did make The Last Duel. Forgot about that. And I have seen that one as well in theaters when it came out a couple years ago now. But enough about Ridley Scott. I thought this was a really well done movie. It wasn't gut-bustingly funny, but it had its moments, even though the ending was kind of, I don't want to say a downer, because spoilers for the Book of Clarence, but essentially Lakeith Stanfield's character decides to become a messiah so that he can grift people and pay back this guy for like a horse and a chariot that he borrowed, I guess, to race this girl who just so happens to be Mary Magdalene, played by, oh my god, what's her name? I'm blanking out on names. Like I said, I just woke up from a nap. She was in 1001. Tiana Taylor. Mary Magdalene is played by Tiana Taylor. He's racing her. They lose the chariot. Now they gotta pay this guy back. And he's like, you know what? The idea, it all takes place in 33 AD, by the way, which sort of, maybe it wasn't obvious actually, I don't know. But is like, yeah, I'm gonna pretend to be a messiah. We're gonna take donations, and then we're gonna be able to pay this guy back, and then I'll win the affections of his sister, because that's his whole like overarching goal. And he ends up being a little too good at his job, And so the Roman legion is like, hey, Messiah, we gotta execute you, actually. Which, it's really interesting because, I mean, in the actual Bible, okay, to be fair, it's been a while since I've actually read the Bible. I haven't had to read it since like college. My Belhaven University education required me to read the Bible. Um, so I can't remember if it was actually like, the Jewish community or the Romans who like initiated him being on trial and like being crucified and everything like that. I genuinely can't remember. But in the movie, the Romans are like rounding up all of the Messiah claimants and are crucifying them. And yeah, all of that was for like for a girl, you know? Which actually, no, this actually reminded me of something that I did want to talk about. So when I was in college at Belhaven University, the school that required me to read the Bible and go to church once a week, it wasn't technically church, it was chapel. We had to listen to a person speak, and it was boring every single time, except the only time I paid attention at chapel in college was when Angie Thomas came to speak. That was the only time I was ever paying attention. Anytime else, I was like trying to nap. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. While I was at school studying film, obviously, you have to write some films, which is like, oh yeah, great. But something that I noticed is that a number of my, male classmates were just writing all these boy meets girl stories, and like the whole point of all of their scripts was like, oh, I'm gonna goodness. Oh, I'm gonna do a thing to impress a girl, or something centering around a woman. And like, what were the things that I was writing at the time particularly skillful? Probably not. I was, just figuring out how to do all of this. I'm not really commenting on the skillfulness of these scripts, mostly just the plot. And I just found it to be so boring. It's like, the common refrain in writing, be it screenwriting or really any type of writing, is write what you know. And obviously these guys knew nothing other than get girl like me. Which, to be fair, I was also in that mind space of get guy like me, but I wasn't really writing about it because it felt trite. It felt done to death, I mean, I guess if you want to boil down the human condition to like a few core things, getting someone of the gender that you're interested in to be interested in you is like a pretty universal experience, I would say. But there are a lot of interesting things you can write about instead of that. Now, I will say this, because of the way our film program was ran, we were writing things that, let me say this, we were encouraged to write things that we could actually make, so we could, learn the filmmaking process. And we kind of had limited resources. The film program at Belhaven started in, when was it? 2016, I believe. And I joined in 2018. So I was like, we're 2 years into a very small fledgling program. And so we aren't going to have access to, big sound stages, even though there is another community college around here. I believe it's Hines, that has a film and television program that has like an actual sound stage. There could have been some collaboration there. I don't know why it never happened, but I don't know. That's up to the person who was over it, not me. So, but what was I saying? Oh, we didn't really have access to a whole lot of like sound stages and actors as well, because I think I talked about this on the pod before. I remember mentioning it, but either way, that was another episode. This is this episode. I made a video not long after I graduated about my challenges trying to make a short film. And one of the challenges that I encountered was that my senior film that I was going to make was going to honestly be very simple. One location, like 2 actors and like 2 extras. That was the entirety of what was required. But my main actress, the main character, was going to be a Black woman. And, at Belhaven, we do have a pretty decent, I would say robust theater program. But we had at the time, I don't know what it's like there now. It's probably, actually, I can't even say it's probably better. I don't know. I legitimately don't know. I would hope it's better. But at the time, we had two black female actresses in the entire theater program. And I mean, Belhaven's not a particularly big school, but still, it is kind of weird that there's only two black actresses in the entire program. And, at the time, again, hopefully, I hope this has changed because all you're doing is really hamstringing your students. But, anyways, at the time, we were encouraged to only really use our theater students and not really, venture out to like other actors because as it was the assumption of my, professor, you're going to have to pay like actual actors to act for you and we don't have budget for that, so just go with the theater students. Which, to be fair, we did have some non-theater students who were in our films that we made. They were still Belhaven students, so we didn't pay them. But the non-theater students did just as well as the theater students. Honestly, I would go so far as to say that the non-theater students that we had in our films did better than our theater students because something about theater, which I mean, if you're in the arts or even adjacent to like theater or anything like that, you probably know. But one of the, principles of theater, I guess, I don't know, I've never taken a single theater class, is that you're acting for the people in the back of the theater, right? You have to be very big, essentially. There's not really a whole lot of room for like nuance in theater, unfortunately. And when you're working with, which that might not be true, however, when you're working with like students, all they know is to act for the people in the back. And I mean, with film, you got shots that are like this close, and you don't need to act for the people in the back. The people are right here. So ran into that issue with my film, and I have no idea how I got to the subject at all. Oh, the stuff that I was reading in school. Yeah, mostly just a lot of girl meets boy type of stuff. And I will say some of the best stuff that I have read while at Belhaven did not include any of those plot points. In fact, my favorite film that I worked on was one of our longest short films. I think it ended up being like 20 minutes. At the time that I was there, it has been by now, like 3 years since I've graduated. So a whole number of things could have happened since then. But since I have graduated, my favorite film that I had worked on was our longest at the time. And it was about a girl who was undergoing cancer treatments and befriended an older man in like the, I guess, oncology or radiation clinic or something. And it was a very heartfelt, poignant film. Nothing to do with romance. Let's see, what's another I'll tell you one of the best performances I think we got during my time there. It was sort of romance-ish, but not really. It was about a breakup, basically. And two people are in a restaurant, and honestly, it's one of those films where, you know, something that my professor would say a lot, and honestly, this I do agree with him. If something is, a film is mostly like dialogue, then that's like a stage play because it's mostly just talking. There's not much acting, or there's not much action, I should say. And while I do agree with that, I think it kind of worked here only because, the main actress in it was like really good. And she wasn't a trained actor. She wasn't a theater person. She was, in fact, she was in creative writing with me when I was, still in that program. And she did really, really well. And so it's like, I really encourage our young writers out there to think outside of the box. Honestly, something that I think we all can kind of benefit from. I've been seeing, some of the I don't want to call it girl boss feminism because it really isn't that. It is genuine, like sincere feminism, but a lot of people in feminist spaces talking about decentering men from your lives. And I think there is a lot of value in that, in, being a whole person without having a partner, which for me, I've never really had that. Well, okay, no, big lie. No, no. What I was gonna say, which was gonna be a lie, was that, oh, I've never had that problem because I've never been in a relationship. But men were very much centered romantically in my life in ways that were not helpful to me, like, at all. So, and I am starting to like move away from that, thankfully, in my big age. Um, but I also think men can benefit from decentering women from their lives a little bit as well. And then we might get, more interesting stories being told on screen. And with like regular films that you see in the movie theater, there's really not that issue. But I feel like, you know, filmmakers just starting out, well, really, I can only speak for my cohort during my time in film school, but they really needed to decenter women from their lives because that is all they would write about. Of course, that didn't really include everyone. We did have some people who were excellent writers who were not writing about those kinds of things. So it wasn't all like that, but there were definitely a handful of people just all they would write about is, ooh, what if a girl, or no, what if a boy met a girl? Ooh, revolutionary. And honestly, at some point I became so fed up with it that we had, I don't know if it was during a class or we just had like a meeting for something or something like that. And I was saying like, we gotta think of something else to write about. Like, write about literally anything else other than a boy meeting a girl. Like, write about two girls meeting, And I remember saying that because my film professor was like, yeah, we can't really do that here. Can't do that at Bellhaven. You can't two girls. That's illegal. So, you know, even though I say that, I don't think we were particularly hamstrung about or by being in a Christian university. I mean, really, all I would have wanted at Bellhaven would have been more resources. Not necessarily money, but really just like people resources. Um, I do remember the only thing that we couldn't really write about was like, I remember we were actively like forbidden from putting alcohol in any of our scripts, I think. Aside from that, and being told that I can't write about gay people, that was kind of it, which I don't know, might be stifling to some people. For me, I mean, not necessarily. The only thing that was stifling for me was that we were apparently fresh out of black actors, so that was the only thing that I ran into. But yeah, I think maybe also something that might have improved things a little bit was we weren't, like actively discouraged or told, no, you can't write things that are unfeasible, but we were heavily pushed towards, write for feasibility. And honestly, I think that might have been why we got so many boy meets girl scripts, because we were limited to, actors in their late teens and 20s on a college campus or the surrounding area. And that doesn't really lead to very much variety. And again, like I said, we did have some variety for the people who were able to think outside of the box, but a lot of the time it just wasn't the case. So it's kind of unfortunate, but Eddie's what Eddie's. And that's talking about all of that, talking about the Book of Clarence. It was fine. Oh, what wasn't fine? Oh my god, I forgot about this until just now, but while I was at the theater, it wasn't really all that packed. I will say this. I always buy my tickets in advance when I'm going to see a movie. And I use the Fandango app I have for like a bajillion years now. I don't really see the point of using anything else, to be completely honest. I'm not going to use like a theater specific app because, what if I want to go to another theater? I mean, there are only maybe like 2 good theaters around here, so my options are a little bit limited, but still, what if I go somewhere else, and want to see a movie? But anyways, I always pick my seat in advance as well, and I always try to be like in the very middle row, or in the very middle in the row that I'm sitting in, and trying not to be too far back and also not too far forward. So basically, in the very middle of the theater, essentially. And I ended up being in between 2 couples, which, I mean, I don't really care about that, but I don't know. This could just be me, just like, I don't know, noticing things that aren't there. But when I sat down in this previously empty seat between these two couples, the guy sitting to the left of me, like, turned to the girl that he was with. I don't know what he said, but, the vibe was weird. Um, but aside from that, things were fine, except when the movie was over, right? I sometimes like to stay to the end of the credits because I just like watching the credits, all those people, those names that you see rolling during the credits, they all worked very hard on the movie. And I would like to at least dignify them by seeing and recognizing their names and their positions. Now, is that very pretentious of me? I should hope not. I really hope not, because one day, my name is going to be in the credits somewhere, and I would hope that the people watching would dignify me by at least seeing and recognizing my name. That's all I ask for. But anyways, staying, during the credits is whatever. I can't remember the last time I watched a movie where there was like an after credits scene, because I think that's mostly like a Marvel thing, and I just do not like Marvel movies. I'm not gonna elaborate either. Do I have to? They're kind of bland and they're not funny. Um, that's my only elaboration, but I still like to stay and watch the credits. It's just what I like to do. And so, most people, they don't do that. So when the credits are rolling, the house lights come up, and the guy sitting to the right of me, who has been, by the way, it didn't bother me all that much because he wasn't doing it during the whole thing, but he was narrating parts of the movie like, oh, that's him. Or, when there's like a reveal or something coming up and somebody says like, oh, but that's not, or I really am struggling to, like, I don't know, show how he was doing this, but people who kind of like narrate movies while they're watching them, and it's a little annoying, especially when you're in public and like not at the house, which perfectly acceptable if you're in your own home. In a theater with other people trying to enjoy it, not so great. But he got up at the end of the movie and he had popcorn, right? Because people, when you go to movies, you have popcorn. I don't, because I don't like popcorn and I don't like the way it gets in my teeth and my gums. But he stands up with his popcorn, his half full bucket of, I would say, medium sized bucket of popcorn, and he just throws it onto his seat. He just stands up, unreclines his seat, stands up, tosses it on the seat. And I'm like, bro, I don't say anything, obviously, because I'm like stunned that he just did that. And like, I'm not about to say something to this grown man. Like, no. He just throws it on the seat. Popcorn goes, all over the seat. And he's with a woman, presumably his partner, I don't know. Well, yes, his partner, because she goes, babe, when he does that, and the both of them keep on walking. And I'm like, I've never seen something so audacious in my life. And I go to the theater semi-regularly, Sometimes I go to like really full showings of movies. Sometimes I'm like the only person in the theater. But the times that has happened, and people who, I won't call them scumbags, but they're not the most courteous of individuals. Sometimes they'll leave like a popcorn bucket on the floor for the people to come get, but throwing it onto the seat in complete disregard, that's a new one for me. That's definitely a new one. I've never seen that happen before. Just like, how do you do that? That's crazy. That is wild, wacky, crazy, and insane. Like, just the complete disregard. And the weird thing about this, too, is that for some reason, I don't know why, I don't know if it was the last showing of the night, because the movie ended at around 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. And, midway through the credits rolling, the people are, like, already cleaning. And so now, because I'm sitting here watching the credits roll, because that's what I like to do, I'm just sitting next to this mess next to me. And I mean, eventually the person comes and like sweeps everything up and gets the popcorn bucket, and I'm just sitting here looking like a doo-doo head because there's like almost full bucket of popcorn spilled on the seat next to me. And it's like, I didn't do it, but still, like, the person who did is long gone. And it's just a weird situation, honestly. Like, people just do not care. And also, this person, I don't know how old they were, but they were not a teenager, definitely. They were, I would hazard a guess and say, well into their 30s. Well into their 30s. Very much in the middle, in the midst of their life, you know? Which, I mean, 30, that's not really the middle of your life unless you, like, die when you're 60. So, but still, definitely old enough to know better. So it's like, my goodness, Like, from a kid or a teenager who's there, like, unaccompanied, would I expect something like that? I wouldn't really expect it. Obviously, I would hope that, the children were not raised in a barn. But, I wouldn't be super surprised. But for, like, a grown dude to be doing that, it's crazy. I'm gonna move on. I don't really need to belabor the point. What's next on the list? Oh, I can finally talk about Drag Race. Okay, so I got some things to talk about too. So, well, okay, I said that like I had several paragraphs in my head. I don't think I do, but we're gonna see what I can conjure up. So by now, 2 episodes of Drag Race have aired. The full split premiere has been split premiered. We have not had 2 groups of queens meet each other yet. That'll be this week. But I will say, so the first episode, I'm not gonna lie, I did like, that cohort. I thought, there was some good talent in there. Some people, I'm not really rooting for anyone yet, but I do like Dawn. I like Dawn. She is likable. And maybe I would like for her to go far, but I don't know if I'm rooting for her yet. I've not been given anything to root for yet. Because it's only been 1 episode that she's been in, So, and also I will say I do like having talent shows in the main seasons instead of just in the All-Stars, which they've been doing this for a while now. So, I don't think I have to announce that every time that they do that every season. But I do enjoy it because it gives the queens a chance to, showcase their talents, especially right off the top like that. I like that. It's a good choice. However, I will say some people's talents were more, exciting than others. I'm talking about you, Tsunami Muse. I thought, I'm going to say this. I liked her track. I thought it was good. I thought it was nice. But I thought she was going to at least do a flip, do a split, do something instead of just trotting up there and lip syncing. Like, that was definitely disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. It was kind of nothing. And I mean, it's good that the track was good, because if it wasn't, then what would there be? What would there be to see? Let's see who else. I'm trying to think of the first episode. It's been a while. People are people are definitely, have some things to say about a mandatory meeting. Definitely her makeup. It's a little rough. But, I like not perfect drag queens being on Drag Race because, now we're 16 main seasons in, so many international franchises, so many All-Stars franchises. Like, we need more imperfection. We need more people who are just kind of just okay, Because I feel like that presents room for growth during the season. If they last. I would like to think that a mandatory meeting is gonna be lasting at least a little while. I think she's really funny, aside from her makeup being not great. But, I like that. And maybe I'm rooting for her a little bit too. Maybe I'm rooting for her a little bit. Maybe just a teeny weeny bit. Maybe just a little. Maybe. I think that really concludes my thoughts about the first episode because, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on, The mini challenge it was fine, it was whatever. Aside from that, I thought, okay, this I will say this: the first group is definitely like the nice girls group. Like these are gonna be the girls who are like gonna get along. Like these girls are gonna end up being sisters. You know, that whole kinship thing. This second group, oh my goodness. This, okay, it's not even like all the second group. It really is just plain Jane. Like we finally have, you know, an actual right out the gate villain of the season with Plain Jane. And honestly, you know, for reality television purposes, I love that. I love that we have like an actual like villain, because I'm trying to think back to the previous episodes. I mean, Candy Muse wasn't exactly a villain. She was just kind of full of herself, and you know, that's not exactly a villainous trait, not to me anyway, being full of yourself. And I mean, last season, gosh, I'm blanking real hard on who the villain for that could have been, but you know, I feel like it's been a while since we've had like a very transparent villain, someone we can root against, someone, an antagonist, you know, someone who's probably going to serve as the foil for someone else, you know. So I am very excited for these two groups to meet each other and interact. And I'm also very excited for someone to finally get friggin' eliminated. Because, gosh, you know, 16, how much was it? No, 14. 14 queens, 2 weeks without an elimination. This is going to be a long season. Like, I can already feel it. And the whole immunity thing. I haven't watched season 5. So I'm not really entirely sure how the immunity is going to work. I started watching season 13, so relatively recently. You know what's funny? Valnet is what brought me my love for Drag Race. That's insane. You know, I have been exposed to a whole new world through this like content farm. So if I can thank Valnet for one thing, it's introducing me to Drag Race, which is a whole story. I promise I'm not trying to just like plug videos on my main channel during this one, but I made a whole video about Valnet, so you can learn about that, I guess, if you want to. But yeah, shout out to Valnet for introducing me to Drag Race, because I am just living my life. I'm enjoying so many things, you know. Huh. That is really interesting to think about. But anyways, yeah, Plain Jane is she's the villain. She's the certified villain, the designated villain, the one we can root against, and I love that for us. However, you know, knowing how this fan base can be, they're not gonna take her as like a normal television antagonist. They're gonna take it way personally, which I just don't understand. I really don't. I'm sorry. Like, I cannot get taking this that seriously. Honestly, I don't want to say it, cuz like, you know, there have been actual bad things to come out of the community that I'm about to talk about, but it almost feels like Drag Race fans are they aren't, but it feels like it's getting there. They're in the class of like football hooligans, where like you're so passionate for this one team, you're like willing to raise a city, you know? It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. But instead of, you know, flipping over cars in, I don't know, Blackpool or whatever city in the UK that people do this at, you're, you know, sending people death threats on twitter.com, which is not kosher. Neither of those are kosher, but you know, they almost feel like they're in the same class. Like, Drag Race stanship, not fans, stanship, and football hooliganism are almost becoming one and the same, which is not great. And I think some viewers of this television program really need to take a long, hard look at themselves and ask, like, why are you like that? Why are you like that? You know, like with a scripted TV show, like, you know, let me see, well, okay. I was about to say, like, oh, nobody was sending death threats to the showrunners of Game of Thrones after that ended in the way that it did. But honestly, they probably did. I wouldn't put it past some people. So who knows? Maybe this is just normal television viewing now, which it shouldn't be, but maybe it is. It's weird, but whatever. Can't relate. So, the last thing on my list of things is the last thing on my list, which I guess kind of old news now because it happened. Did it happen in December or did it happen in January? I can't even remember. It's been a whirlwind. But a certain person who conspired to kill their mother has been released, I think 2 years early. She was supposed to do 10 years, I think. Or something like that. I can't remember. But Gypsy Rose Blanchard, she's out of jail. And she apparently has a husband. Don't know how that happened. And I don't know what to say about the whole situation. Not really about her herself, but just the way that it's like taken on this weird life online. I genuinely don't really understand why people are, I don't even know what to call this like phenomenon. Like, it's not even memifying. It's like going past memification. Because like still, even if you were memifying something, you could still look at it and point to it and recognize how it's like bad. But I feel like the people who are, I don't even know if it's idolization or what. I genuinely don't know what's going on here. The people who are being real weird about Gypsy Rose Blanchard, it's certainly strange, especially, like, okay, do we feel bad for her? I certainly do, knowing what I know about the situation, which, I mean, if you don't know by now, I don't know how you've managed to escape that, but I guess, briefly recap it for you. Gypsy Rose Blanchard is a person whose mother was abusing her because her mother had Munchausen's by proxy. And basically what that meant is that her mother, Dee Dee, concocted up all of these medical conditions for Gypsy Rose to have and kind of induced some medical conditions to, make it look real, to get sympathy and, I guess, attention from those around her. And it really ended up taking a toll on Gypsy Rose's life because, I mean, from very young, this was happening, and it essentially kind of stunted her development, not really her physical development, but definitely I would say her mental development. She did not have a normal upbringing, at all. And I mean, she wanted out. And so I guess the only way she thought of that she could get out was to have her weirdo online boyfriend come over and like stab her mother to death. And that's what ended up happening. And so she ended up getting, I think, 10 years for it, probably because of the circumstances I just described. And, because she didn't actually do the murdering herself. From what I remember, she like hid in the bathroom during it. And the boyfriend, I'm pretty sure, got like life. He's never getting out. And so, people were very taken with this story because it's so insane. It genuinely is like an insane situation that this woman could do this to her daughter and that her daughter can finally, I guess, find the strength to retaliate, but in a very, very extreme way. Murder, I would say pretty extreme. So yeah, at first I thought, when the news started going around that, Gypsy Rose is getting out of prison, it would just be mostly people, talking about the weirdness of the situation and kind of, I guess, idly hoping that maybe she can finally have like a normal life, which, how much of a normal life can you have after you go through something like that and also spend a significant amount of time like in prison, But the thing for me, I've always been, not always, I don't know how to, I've been aware of her situation for a while because back when BuzzFeed News was a thing, before it like died, RIP BuzzFeed News, that was like the first big story that they broke was, you know, what Gypsy Rose was enduring and how she came to kill her mother, essentially. Um, and, it had been covered by local news, I guess, but I think BuzzFeed News was the first outlet to really pick up, like, first national outlet to pick up on it and, like, go do some, like, really good journalism. And I think they won. Okay, I don't know if they won a Pulitzer for that or anything like that, but I think they were recognized in some way that that was, a decent piece of journalism. And that was, that was how I found out about it. And I think how a lot of people found out about it. And then, of course, HBO made their documentary, Mommy Dead and Dearest, which it's fine, but I've seen a few Netflix true crime documentaries, and I gotta say, the amount of dead bodies that they're just willing to put on the silver screen is like far too much. Like, I mean, with this one, they show you, fair warning for anyone who wants to watch that documentary on HBO Max, but you literally see her on bed, stab wounds, with the one about the guy who like accidentally confessed to murder and like dismembering this guy. What was his name? He's dead now, but oh, what was it? The Hitch or the Stitch or something like that. It was a series, basically. At the very beginning, they show you like, hey, here's a leg, here's an arm, here's a disembodied torso. Like, bro, calm down. In the one, I don't know if this is a Netflix, not Netflix, an HBO documentary specifically. I think it is, but there's something wrong with Aunt Diane about the woman who like drove, I think, down the wrong way, down an interstate with like 6 kids in the back or something like that. They show you the initial, the crash before all the bodies were taken away, and it's like, can we chill with that? Like, do we need to see that? Is that a requirement of true crime? Honestly, this is really what I want to talk about. Is it really a requirement of true crime programming that we need to see a dead body? I'm just asking, does that need to be seen? I don't think it does. Like, I don't think you're taking anything away from the narrative if you just do not show a person's dead body. Like, why do we need to do that? Why do we need to do that? Is it like, do we need to see that? Why can't we have like I don't know, an artistic representation of a crime scene if we need to do something like that? Why can't we just blur it out a little bit? Why can't we, now I get like in some, I guess, crime scenes, there's like stuff in the area where the murder took place, and it's like, oh, these are clues. This person left behind bloody footprints, or there's a knife over there in the corner, and it's like, you can show that, but you don't have to show me a body. It's not required. I really don't think it's required. Genuinely, I don't. And this has only really been something that I've seen, in those 3 Netflix documentaries, and honestly, some YouTubers are guilty of it as well. Which, I mean, we know they're guilty of it because there was that whole thing with the lady who, like, somehow, well, probably not somehow, it's probably open record that you could find it, which I don't think it should be, but found a kid's autopsy photos and sold those on Patreon for like $10 or something like that. So I don't get why we need to see dead bodies. Dead, brutally murdered, mangled, dismembered bodies. I don't get it. I really don't. You can drive home the point that you're trying to make without showing that. So, if you are listening to this, burgeoning young true crime documentarian or YouTuber, you don't have to show the body. You can show the crime scene. But bodies are where I draw the line. That's it. That's all I have to say. And the fact that that was included in the documentary is wild, wacky, crazy, and insane. Like, good lord. We don't really need to do that. We don't, Anyway, now that Gypsy Rose is out, she's like doing this whole press tour. Like, I saw her on The View, and I'm kind of confused as to why she's doing it, because the only thing that's happened is that she's out of jail. I haven't heard anything about her, releasing a tell-all memoir where she's gonna finally, I don't know, set the record straight and tell her story, which, given the nature of of the crime that had happened, I think she would be forbidden from doing that because, I don't know when this like law was put into place, but if you're convicted of a murder, and this might not be I don't even know if she got a murder charge, so I don't even know if this would apply to her. But I don't know if this is like a universal thing in all states, so who knows. Also, I didn't know they were just like down in Louisiana. That's close. That's pretty close. For me, anyways. Like, sometimes it'd be in your own backyard, But what was I gonna say? I don't know if she would even be able to release a tell-all memoir telling her side of things because of the way that, the laws work, where if you're like convicted of a murder or something like that, you can't profit off of your crime. Or maybe that, is used as like a stipulation in some way in the courts. But her doing a whole press tour and joining social media, that's whatever. I mean, we all remember OJ Simpson's first Twitter videos after he friggin' got out for kidnapping. So that was like a whole thing. But, he didn't like do a press tour after he was released from jail. Not this time around, anyways. I can't remember what happened after the whole, the trial, because I wasn't around for that. Big surprise. I wasn't alive when the OJ trial happened. Actually, I don't know. No, because I know it didn't happen in the 2000s. It happened in the 90s. So, yeah. That I do find a little bit odd. I don't know if she's acquired the services of like a publicist or something, or like a PR person, but honestly, if I were in that situation, the only thing that I would want is to just live a normal life, with her prison husband that she found in prison somehow. That one is still kind of confusing to me. Like, I know it happens. Like, you can get in these pen pal programs with like prisoners and stuff like that, but it feels weird. It feels a little weird. Just a weeny bit, just a little bit. Just have a normal life outside of the public eye after, you've lived basically your whole life being exploited. Like, why would you want to subject yourself to even more exploitation in the media? Even though this time around, I guess it is, I would hope it is her choice that she is doing all these like interviews and stuff, but it's just a sad situation all around. Something that was maybe not funny, like haha, but funny, like interesting, is that no tears were shed when Dee Dee Blanchard was killed. So, and it's not even like out of respect for the victim, because technically Gypsy Rose here was the real victim, even though, did her mom deserve to die for what she did? Maybe it's because I'm a bleeding heart lib, but jail, absolutely. Death, pump the brakes a second. Those are just my views on it. Like, did Gypsy Rose absolutely deserve to be liberated from her horrible mother? Yeah. Did her mom deserve to die for it? There are better ways of teaching a lesson, I think. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. So, that concludes my list of topics. I know I posted on Twitter some time ago now. Wait, have I already talked about this? I can't even remember. I don't know. Either way, I'm going to talk about it again. I posted on Twitter quite some time ago that I was going to be going to see Veil of Maya in concert, and I changed my mind. I found out, which honestly I was looking for an excuse to cancel my trip anyways, but I found out that when I would be going down to New Orleans to see them would be like the beginning of Mardi Gras festivities, and a place that I don't want to be is in New Orleans during Mardi Gras. I just don't want to be nowhere near that. I don't need those problems. No, thank you. So I canceled the trip, and also because I do want to save a little bit of money. So I canceled my hotel and I sold my ticket. So I'll be going to see Veil of Maya, unfortunately, which, I mean, it's a tour to support their latest album, Mother, and in preparation for me seeing them, I listened to the album Mother, and I was very unimpressed. I hate to say it. I was like a little unimpressed. I didn't really like the album, which is weird because, like, well, I mean, it's not weird. The sounds are completely different. Because I like False Idol a lot, and I'm trying to remember Matriarch. I like some tracks from that, and so I thought, oh, I like these two albums. I'm gonna like their newer work. I did not, unfortunately. Big sorry to Veil of Maya. That I didn't like their latest album, but I simply did not. That really wasn't a deciding factor in me not going, by the way. It really was the fact that, Mardi Gras festivities are going to begin during that little weekend. Ugh. Mardi Gras festivities are going to begin during that little weekend, and what else? It was just too expensive, to be completely honest. And also, I spent like 2 months traveling. Like November and December, I did a lot of traveling, and the thought of driving 3 hours down to New Orleans was just like not it wasn't giving. And I thought about, taking the train because we have a direct Amtrak line from Jackson to New Orleans, which I still want to take at some point, but I don't know. It just wasn't speaking to me at that moment. I'll just have to go back down to NOLA some other time and hopefully take the train the next time that I do go down, because I think it would be really fun to take a method of transportation I never have before. Because, obviously I've been in a car. I've been on a bus, not like a Greyhound or anything like that, but you go on a field trip in school and you take the charter bus. And I guess the school bus too. I mean, I've never taken like an actual public transportation bus. Not that I really would want to, because the buses around here, I mean, they're not stellar. I don't know. No. So technically speaking, I've taken a bus, not like a, public transport bus. I've been on a plane. I've been on a boat, like cruise ship. And I mean, I've taken the BART when I went to San Francisco, and I guess by extension Oakland. And that's more of a, it's not a long distance train, but I haven't been on like a long distance train, which is what I want to go on. And then I think that will complete like all of the modes of transportation for me, planes, trains, automobiles. For some reason, boats are included in that. So, yeah. And then they'll like complete everything. It'll be so nice. But I guess I just have to, pick a day. Just go down there. I mean, I think we're fresh out of 3-day weekends because, I mean, it's Martin Luther King Day today. And so, when I would ideally want to do this would be like a multi-day trip, not just like a go down, come right back type of thing. Which I don't even know. I think they do that, but the times that the train departs from here and arrives in New Orleans and like vice versa, they're like too close together where you'd only have like 3 hours to spend in the city, which I don't think that's enough time to do anything. So I wouldn't want to do that. I would want it to be like a multi-day type of thing. And I can't really think of the next like 3-day weekend that's coming up. And I mean, obviously I could just like take off of work, but I've been taking so many days off for leisure reasons. And I'm not hoping that I get sick, but who knows? Maybe a sickness is waiting for me in 2024 and I'm going to need that time off. So, but at least when my 1-year anniversary at work comes up, which is coming up next month, very soon, I'll finally be getting more time off. So instead of like 8.5 hours or something like that, I'll be getting 11.5 hours. So every month. So that'll be pretty good. I am looking forward to getting more time off. And thankfully my boss is a real one and she's not weird about us taking time off for really any reason. So like whenever I want to, I can. That I know. I have such a great job, you guys. Like, I don't want to talk about it too much, but it's fun. I like it. Honestly, I'm not going to push this episode any further. I am struggling to find things to talk about, and it has been almost an hour. Not that I've ever had like a hard and fast hour limit, but I'm trying Honestly, I think I talked about everything I wanted to talk about except for the Hines County Pauper Cemetery, which I talked about at length on my main channel. It's just Aaron. You should check it out. It's a really good video. Very long, but still really good. So follow me on Twitter, cuz if you're not following me on Twitter, you're only getting half the story. I love saying that. It's just so much fun. Like the Untucked intro, it's so much fun. Also about the Untucked intro, they changed up the I guess they're gonna be cycling them a little bit more because for the longest time it really was just like the same few sound bites, and then this last season they switched it up, and now they've switched it up even more this season. So I mean, good for them, but I only recognize like a few of them, unfortunately. I do miss This Is Not RuPaul's Best Friend race. That was an iconic one, but you know, she served her time, and now she has to step aside for the other ones to be able to shine. So yeah, follow me on Twitter. Because if you're not following me on Twitter, you're only getting half the story. And I will see you guys in the next one. And it's so cold. I know this is like a beginning of the podcast type of topic, but it's so cold. Like, I am sitting here in a sweater, right? And I mean, this isn't a particularly thin sweater either, but it's not like super thick either. But I'm cold. It's supposed to be like 20 degrees tomorrow as the high. And I have to go to work tomorrow. And I don't know if I'm ready for that. So wish me luck, I guess.